Hey everyone, how the hell are you? Welcome to this video. This was requested by a few people in the comments about sort of the process that I did to create the remix of Never Gonna Give Together Forever Up. And so I thought I'd share some of that with you here. As you can see, I'm working with Sonar Professional by Cakewalk, or at least I was. I'm currently using Pro Tools now, but back in the day I was using this program primarily, and you'll be able to see some of my early music editing goofs in here, so don't flame me too much, please. But I thought I'd go ahead and show you sort of the things and sort of the secrets, and sort of do the whole, magicians showing you the tricks thing. I did come in here and I did color the tracks just for mine and your benefit, to sort of see where things were. But I thought I'd go ahead and just get started with what I used to do this. A lot of people were asking me how I obtained the samples and things. Funny enough, YouTube. It's kind of it might be kind of a letdown to some people, but here on YouTube, I just did some searches like Never Gonna Give You Up backing track only, or Never Gonna Give You Up Vox only. Same with Together Forever, because I noticed that the song sounded so similar, and I was like, that might be kind of fun to try. And when I was looking around, I just found some things. So I'll show you what I did. I'll go ahead and let you know too, after some people have pointed out, yes, Together Forever, every part of that in this song up until the key change has been transposed down a semitone. I used Melodyne and just took everything down a half step, just so it would match together for, Never Gonna Give You Up. The keys were so close, but I thought to myself that changing Never Gonna Give You Up was going to be a little too drastic, because I think people could, even just by hearing the drums in the beginning, immediately know if the key or pitch center has been altered any. So I just decided to do Together Forever, as it was not as popular. It's still one of his bigger songs, but I figured people would not notice that one being drastically different as much. So first, I do have just straight off the album the cut of Together Forever. So the actual song, like I said, transposed the whole thing down a half step. So I have the whole song down a half step. Next is, of course, everyone's favorite. And then this is where it gets interesting. I found Together Forever's backing track. This was what really informed a lot of the remix itself, this track right here, because I only found this bit of chorus from Together Forever that was a cappella. And for the most part, it's a cappella, but with some hand claps on, sort of backbeat 2 and 4. So this is what I found. Together forever and never to part. Together forever we two. And don't you know I would move heaven and earth to be together forever with you. And then it just goes into a little bit of the song before fading out. And so that was it. That was all I got. So I had to find an interesting way to incorporate it if and where I could. Obviously, if you really listen and sort of dissect it, you'll see there's a lot more backing track for this against the Never Gonna Give You Up vocals versus the opposite. Speaking of which, here is the Never Gonna Give You Up backing track that I found. If you ask me how I'm feeling, don't tell me you're too blind to see. And so on and so forth. And then the a cappella only studio of Never Gonna Give You Up. This one was invaluable as well. This is the whole song, starting, of course, the ladies.
We're no strangers to love. You know the rules, and so do I. A full commitment's what I'm thinking of. You wouldn't get this from any other guy.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I found that, and it does sound a little processed. I mean, it sounds like someone pulled it off of the track themselves, which is fine. I mean, when you sit it inside of another song, slap some reverb, maybe do a little EQ on it, it sounds just fine. But those were the materials used, just that. You can see most of them are the entire track, with the exception of the Together Forever chorus vox by themselves. But I thought I'd maybe just break down a little bit of what I did and how I did it from the beginning. So, of course, the iconic with a crossfade into Together Forever's backing track. Helps that they both start very sort of abruptly like that. Down here we have the Never Gonna Give You Up vocals by themselves against the Together Forever backing track.
We're no strangers to love. You know the rules, and so do I.
It was amazing to me the amount of similarity between the two songs. I even said so in the description for the original video, but knowing that pop music and top 40 are similar anyway, getting them so close, even in tempo, with very minimal adjustments to the timing, and I'll talk about that here too. But just seeing how much they fit inside of the chord progressions that the other makes is just, it's so fun. Here is where we transition. It's more noticeable now, I'm sure, now that you see it in the flesh with this crossfade that could have probably been a little bit better, but this is the actual track crossfading from the backing track. So if I take out these vocals, the only thing that really stands out to me apart from these kind of lousy early fades that I've done here, where the mixes between the two were not exactly the same. And you'll hear, to me at least, I definitely hear the horns panning right to left across this cut.
So don't stop before then, it's destiny calling.
And I tried different versions of swapping and reversing the panning of the tracks, but it was a little too drastic, so I just sort of kept it and let this crossfade between the two do that for me. Because the ending of a phrase and starting a new one, your ear is already expecting something different anyway. These 8-bar phrases come to a stop and you're expecting something else, and it delivers that harmonically in the song by going to this pre-chorus. And by doing that across this crossfade here, it helps sort of mask the different mixes.
So don't stop before then, it's destiny calling, a power I just can't deny.
So the actual track, and then once again, that same thing in reverse, going from the actual track to the backing with Never Gonna Give You Up. And this is where you can see some of those edits I was talking about making. Some of these here. Let me just... Sorry for those who know Sonar better than I do and are screaming at me to use hotkeys or other such things if they even exist. I haven't used this in quite a while anyway. But you can see right here, these are the timings that I did. Most of these phrases, as long as they lasted, were all right. But then just nudging them slightly left in the linear portion of the edit made them stick a little better.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around
That one was probably the hardest one. That really quick, never gonna, right in there.
Cry, never gonna say goodbye.
But still so close that it makes sense musically when you hear it against this tempo of this track.
Cry, never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. We've known each other.
And now finally into Never Gonna Give You Up proper.
Your heart's been aching, but you're too shy to say it. Inside we both know what's been going on.
And then another crossfade between the actual track and this backing.
Like to see together forever and never to part. Together forever we two. And don't you know I would move heaven and earth to be together forever with you.
Probably could have faded that out a little bit better, but once again, just putting these back to where they belong, scooting them, scooting them to make sure that the starts of phrases were correct. And luckily, the tempi were so close that it basically married itself. But going from there, we travel all the way back to the original Together Forever track in this crossfade here.
If there's anything you need, all you have to
Once again, there's that sort of fading right to left of horns, which I think is kind of neat because it sort of separates. There's this I hear this high trumpet sound coming right, and it to me also kind of screams the George Martin Beatles panning things just for the sake of interesting soundscapes. So once again, there's that cut.
If there's anything you need, all you have to do is say.
Like I said, all that down a semitone, so that's why he sounds a little lower than normal. And then, of course, this cut is where we start to get a little more interesting with the actual remix nature of the piece. Let's see here.
Together forever.
Not a bad little edit right there. Yeah. Good job, me. And all these little edits, all these little interjections, starting to make it sort of more composition-like.
Together forever. Together forever. Together forever we two.
Backing vocals. And this was interesting. I decided that I wanted to have a setup to the song, the Never Gonna Give You Up, just plain and simple, but I knew I wanted to do things afterwards, so that's why I didn't edit this into the actual song. I just married the a cappella vocals to the backing track. That way I knew I could do things later afterwards, but it is truly just the actual track.
I just wanna tell you how I'm feeling. Gotta make you understand. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you.
So on and so on. And then this little cut.
I just wanna tell you how I'm feeling. I just wanna tell you how I'm feeling. Love, never gonna give, never gonna give.
I like the backing here. The chords I always like with this sort of almost swelling, vibes guitar, sort of airy.
Love, never gonna give, never gonna give.
Another crossfade into Together Forever with the Never Gonna Give bridge here.
Never gonna give, never gonna give. You know the rules.
Okay, I need to talk about that. I when I was discovering all this and listening to this backing track, it sort of tickled me when I heard this little keyboard lick off to the right side here. This da-da-da-da-da, that I always loved this little bit, and putting it in a pocket between this new vocal line I've sort of created, and then just having it sticking right in the middle. It's so kind of quirky. I'm a fan. So this lick right here.
You know the rules. You know the rules. Your heart's been aching, but you're too shy to say it. Inside we both know what's been going on.
And speaking to the song itself, I really like this line cliche thing going on in the chords to Together Forever, and trying things to see if they worked, and finding this was a real pleasure. Like this sounds really cool to me. Like this. But with that against this vocal, I found it on accident, I think, just trying things out, and I was like, this is the coolest thing.
Inside we both know what's been going on. So don't stop before then. It's destiny calling, a power I just can't deny. It's never changing. Can't you hear me? I'm saying, so do I.
All right, so that's my favorite part of the piece, because the composition nature of this and me sort of changing things around created a new line in the song, and I always thought it was cool. And someone, bless them, was so cool to put the lyrics in the comment section as if it was this new song, or some fan was just putting it out there for everyone to enjoy. But I saw that and I thought it was the first time it felt legit to see with all you lovelies enjoying the video, but to see that in there, and then to have this moment where it rhymes, it has this great thing.
I just can't deny.
Your destiny calling, a power I just can't deny. It's never changing. Can you hear me? I'm saying, so do I. It felt poetic, and I was like, yeah, I co-wrote that. So it was just a fun moment.
I just can't deny. It's never changing. Can't you hear me? I'm saying, so do I.
And this just needed to happen because the ladies singing the backup part. Oh, sorry, I had that backwards. This should be the ladies singing. That's always fun. And I really am a fan of this guitar that's you hear in the left channel here. To me, it almost sounds like a keyboard pretending to be guitar. It sounds like someone has like a Fender Strat second selector switch patch or something, as good as Yamaha could have done in the late 80s, early 90s, with a bunch of flange or phaser on it. But I just like this little
Never gonna give, never gonna give.
And that brings us to this penultimate moment here with this Together Forever vocals that end up on a stop time at the end, which I really just thought was kind of interesting and more modern.
Together forever and never to part. Together forever we two. And don't you know I would move heaven and earth to be together forever with you. Never gonna give.
And then, of course, sorry, I need to cut it off. It's like a band director. If any of you have ever been in band, especially percussionist, band director always stops right before the big new part where you finally get a cymbal crash. But this stuff in pink here is when we finally brought Together Forever back to its original key. So of course I married once again that backing track to the Never Gonna Give You Up vocals, but this has been raised now up a semitone. So in my list of things up here in purple that is on my source material, the one thing I didn't list up there, which was only for this last little one-off, was a selection of just the vocals up a semitone for this rising key change feel. So we have this little moment.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you, never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you.
And of course, using the drum intro again just to fill it out because it's so iconic.
With you, never gonna give you up.
And I thought the fade ended up working pretty well between the two. There's a little bit of a fill here towards the end where it just sort of abruptly stops, and it really doesn't do much because it already has a drum fill, but I just thought I thought maybe it would have filled it out a little bit more, but here's that ending one more time. The reverb on there trailing out at the end turned out well, and that was sort of the secret, I think, to a lot of this, was adding enough reverb to let any snare hits, any transients take over for a while and really marry the two pieces to match the fades and everything. But that was the tricks there. It was a lot of fun to make, and of course this came first. This was the creative endeavor, and then the video editing was just ripping it off. I mean, legally obtaining it and putting it together in DaVinci Resolve. If you'd like to see that, drop a comment down there. Let me know what you think, because I can show you that for sure. I would assume that it's not terribly interesting, but I will show you that process too, because I found that it was difficult to get a good cut of Together Forever, because at the time when I made it, it's still, like I said, it's one of his more popular songs, but it wasn't as popular as the internet royalty that is Never Gonna Give You Up. So that was an HD 16:9. Together Forever was a really crappy video cut from probably MTV that they just threw up on the internet, and it was laggy. The frame rate was bizarre. It looked like it had interlacing and line issues, but putting those together was a lot of fun. And of course, you see the amount of stuff I reuse because I'm trying to mask all the edits in the song with edits in the video. And there's not a lot of moments that would lend itself to the silence because I didn't want to have his lips flapping when nothing was going on. And there was only so much dancing I could find that was just him or the folks doing it. A little Control S action there. Always be saving. If you're in this, if you're in Pro Tools, if you're in Avid Media Composer, if you're in Final Cut, if you're anything, hit Command S or Control S, whatever thing you're on. Don't just make sure you're doing that, please. All right. So, but anyway, if you'd like to see that, let me know. But if not, no worries. But I just thought it'd be interesting to show you sort of the process behind all this and sort of this old school editing that I used to do. Like I said, now I'm Pro Tools, so I do everything there. But this was my first DAW. And real quick, I will show you sort of the mixing aspect and you sort of see the mistakes that I made here. Most of the time here, I'm just adjusting levels to make sure everything matches as best it could, because these source materials definitely were at different volumes and such. And of course, the real estate I used here was ridiculous. I have all these new tracks for everything when I could have consolidated a little better, but these, you will see the glaring mistakes of adding reverb straight to the track, which you can for certain choices. But at the time, this is what I did instead of sending. I plopped a new reverb and ate up all my CPU by putting reverb on all these tracks. Of course, equalizing, compressing a little bit. I did have Boost 11 compressor on the master at the end, but it was already compressed. It was already pretty gnarly, so I decided to just let that fly. But some mistakes, some panning here to check to see if I could get things to line up a little bit better in the mix. But other than that, that's pretty much all she wrote. I didn't do a lot of automating or anything in a normal mixing process. I didn't do a lot of selective EQ. I basically just tried to push everything to be similar. No real automation. The reverb, like I said, was just plastered on. No real other effects. A compression on a few of these here and there, but that's really the process there. I thought I'd fulfill the wishes of those who inclined to know, the inquiring minds wished to know. So I thought I'd deliver on that, and hoped you liked the video. And let me know, like I said, if you'd like to see anything else like this, and we'll talk to you again. All right. See ya.